Hi guys, Colleen from Walking the Resonant Path here. I just wanted to talk to you about a book I've just finished reading called The Dreaming Path by Paul Callahan and Uncle Paul Gordon. I'll just do what I always do. I'll read the blurb and tell you what I thought of it. The dreaming path has always been there, but in the modern day world it can be hard to find. There are so many demands on us. Family, health, bills, a mortgage, a career. That it can be hard to remember what's important. You. It's time to reconnect with your story. Through conversations, exercise, dreaming stories, and key messages in the dreaming path, Paul Callahan and Uncle Paul Gordon share knowledge that reveals the power of Aboriginal spirituality as a profound source of contentment and well-being for anyone who is willing to listen. Themed chapters bring together Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal worldviews and invite you to reflect on caring for our place and the importance of our story, relationships, sharing and unity, love, gratitude and humility, learning and living your truth, inspiration and resilience, being present and healing from the past, contentment and leading. Are you ready to connect with a dreaming path to heal, renew and live a good story? This book will be an important first step. So firstly, I'll give you the trigger warnings. There's discussions of mental illness, depression, anxiety, ancestors in there. They weren't named, the ancestors, but there was discussion of ancestors in there. And the traumatic history of Indigenous Australians and white Australia, including invasion, the massacres, the disease, the stolen children, pain, loss, and dislocation. So they're the trigger warnings. If you have sort of things that are going to be triggered by those things, then please don't read it. But I loved the book. I thought it was great. The Dreaming Path is a beautiful, healing, and deeply meaningful book about Indigenous First Nations people wisdom. It's got connection, story, culture, and the possibility of creating a better world through love rather than fear. What I appreciated the most was while the book does speak honestly about the traumatic history of the First Nations people, it never feels like it was written from a place of hate or blame. Instead, it asks us to look at the past truthfully so that we can reflect, learn, heal, and move towards a more unified and compassionate society. And that's the way the whole book is written, which I really liked. From the beginning, I love the respect shown to all people. And I like the respect shown to the elders and First Nations culture. I also appreciated that the authors checked with the elders from their tribes about what it was that was appropriate to share with the general public. So this gave the book a strong sense of reverence and responsibility, which I liked. The writing itself was beautiful, and the descriptions made the Indigenous Australian culture come alive, and with vitality, spirit, and meaning, and it was really good the way they did that. One of the strongest parts of the book was the use of story in their teaching, and each chapter began with a dreaming story, which I really loved. I loved the dreaming stories, and they were fantastic. And I loved how these stories were connected to reflection, healing, and everyday life. The explanations of the dream time, lore, that's spelled Lore, smoking ceremonies, storylines, skin systems, totemic systems, kinship systems, all those were really interesting. I especially like learning about how the First Nations culture teaches responsibility, respect, and right behaviour from an early age through dreaming stories rather than just granting rights based on age. People had to learn, like, how to, as I said, privileges come with responsibility. So you had to understand the responsibility of doing something before you're allowed to do it. And I really like that way of traditional First Nations society, because I think we could do more with that in life. People should, understand the responsibility of what they're doing before they are actually allowed to do it. The practical elements were another highlight, because you all know I like something to do, and this book gave you something to do. It includes exercises like visualization, meditation, and journaling exercises, which I love. And I liked also the summaries at the end of each chapter, where the important messages are repeated in clear and helpful ways. There were so many ideas in this book that I have resonated with, like living without hate and focusing on what we have in common rather than what divides us, accepting each other's stories without judging each other, honouring the elders, practicing gratitude, feeling our emotions without letting them become destructive, using any negative emotion to learn and to create something beneficial out of. I like the messages that all the feelings were valid, but how we express them is what matters. I appreciated the author's openness. They make it clear that you don't have to agree with them at all. And they say that, the differing opinions are a part of life and a part of humility, and that they accept the differing opinions with humility and grace. They actually say that in there. If you don't agree with us, we don't mind. We respect what you think, but please respect what we think. And that's basically what they say, which I really like. It made the book feel very generous rather than sort of, sometimes books feel like they're telling you what to do. They're going, we're just giving our story, our opinion, and, we'll respect yours if you respect ours. And I think I really like that attitude. There's only one small little thing that I didn't like, which also I could be forgiving of, because there seemed to be an assumption that all Western people live, think, and behave the same way. However, I understand that because very much, when they were talking about Western society, they were talking about firstly history and secondly just in a generalization terms. So, it's not that they've said anything awful, it's just that, they, had to say generalizations because you can't talk about everybody individually. And they did same with the First Nations people, obviously different tribes think different things, and they acknowledge that, and I like that they acknowledge this is our tribal information, and other tribes may have different ceremonies, do different things in different ways. So they did acknowledge that, which I liked. For me, the heart of Dreaming Path, this book, is love for people, land, culture, story, community, elders, children, the future, and love for all people, not just First Nations people. They seem to have a love and an understanding, and they wanted to bring together and unify and heal the gap and move forward. And I really liked that. That was my favourite thing about this book, that it was written not with anger or blame or bitterness. It was written with kindness, understanding, healing, and a genuine hope to move forward together for the future. It encourages self-care without selfishness, strength without ego, and truth-telling without hate. It's a book for all people, and I found it beautiful, wise, practical, and profoundly moving, and I gave it 5 out of 5 cauldrons. So that is The Dreaming Path by Paul Callaghan and Uncle Paul Gordon. 5 out of 5 cauldrons from me. Well, I hope you have a glorious day and do whatever resonates within your soul. Bye now.